What if I told you that right now, in this very moment, you're standing at a crossroads that will determine not just your next few years, but your entire eternity? And what if the math behind who makes it and who doesn't is far more terrifying than any religion ever dared to tell you? Stay with me, because what I'm about to share will change how you see every single choice you make today. Let's talk about something nobody wants to think about: eternity. Not the romantic version where everyone gets a participation trophy and floats around on clouds. I'm talking about the raw, mathematical reality of forever. And here's the uncomfortable truth: most people won't make it to the good part. The numbers are staggering, the odds are brutal, and the cosmic filter is more selective than any Ivy League university could ever dream of being. Think about this for a second. There are roughly 8 billion people on this planet right now. 8 billion souls, each one believing they're special, each one assuming they'll somehow slip through the cracks and end up in paradise. But here's where it gets interesting. Every major spiritual tradition, every religious text, every mystical teaching throughout human history has essentially said the same thing. Few are chosen. Few will make it. The path is narrow, and most people will miss it completely. Now I know what you're thinking. This sounds like fear-mongering, like some primitive scare tactic to control people. But let me show you why this isn't about control at all. It's about mathematics. Cold, hard, undeniable mathematics. Let's start with the basics. If we're talking about eternity, we're talking about infinite time. Not a billion years, not a trillion years, but literally forever. Now here's where your brain starts to break down, because humans aren't built to comprehend infinity. We think in terms of lifetimes, maybe generations if we're ambitious. But infinity? That's a whole different game. Imagine you're standing on a beach and someone tells you to count every grain of sand on every beach on planet Earth. That sounds impossible, right? But compared to eternity, that task is laughably simple. You could actually finish counting sand grains. It might take billions of years, but there's an endpoint. Eternity has no endpoint. Let that sink in for a moment. Now let's apply some actual numbers to this cosmic equation. According to most religious and spiritual traditions, somewhere between 5 and 20% of people actually make it to what we'd call the good afterlife. Let's be generous and say 10%. That means out of 8 billion people alive today, only 800 million are on the right path. That's 7.2 billion people who, according to the math, are heading somewhere else. But it gets worse. Think about all the humans who have ever lived. Estimates put that number at around 100 billion people throughout all of human history. If only a 10% cut, that's 90 billion souls who didn't. 90 billion. That's not a rounding error. That's a cosmic catastrophe. And here's the part that should really keep you up at night. What makes you think you're in that 10%? Seriously, stop and ask yourself that question. What evidence do you have that you're one of the chosen few? Because statistically speaking, the odds are heavily stacked against you. 9 out of 10 people are wrong about their eternal destination. 9 out of 10 are sleepwalking toward a cliff they don't even know exists. Now let's talk about why the numbers are so brutal. It's not because the universe is cruel or because some angry deity is playing favorites. It's because of something much simpler and much more terrifying. Most people are asleep. They're living on autopilot, following scripts written by their culture, their family, their fear, their comfort zones. They're making choices based on immediate gratification rather than eternal consequences. Think about your average day. How much of it is spent on activities that have any lasting significance whatsoever? And I'm not talking about productive things like work or exercise. I'm talking about things that matter on a cosmic scale. For most people, the answer is almost nothing. We spend our lives chasing shadows, accumulating stuff that will turn to dust, building empires that will crumble, seeking pleasure that evaporates the moment it's achieved. But here's where the mathematics gets really interesting. Because eternity isn't just about duration, it's about quality. Imagine 2 scenarios. In scenario 1, you spend 70 years living however you want, chasing pleasure, avoiding discomfort, doing what feels good in the moment. Then you spend eternity in a state that's just slightly below neutral. Not torture, not agony, just a persistent, gnawing dissatisfaction that never ends. Never gets better, never gets worse, just exists forever. In scenario 2, you spend 70 years struggling, growing, facing your demons, becoming something more than you are. It's uncomfortable, it's challenging, sometimes it's downright painful. But then you spend eternity in a state of ever-expanding joy, consciousness, and connection. Each moment better than the last, forever. Now here's the math problem. Which scenario is actually better? Most people choose scenario 1 without even realizing it. They optimize for the short term because the short term is all they can really comprehend. But if you actually run the numbers, if you calculate the total experience across infinite time, scenario 2 isn't just better, it's infinitely better. Literally infinitely better. But our brains don't work that way. We have something called hyperbolic discounting, which means we value immediate rewards much more heavily than future rewards, even when the future rewards are objectively better. It's why people eat junk food knowing it'll hurt them later. It's why they stay in bad relationships, because being alone seems worse in the moment. It's why they waste their one precious life on distractions and numbing behaviors instead of doing the hard work of actual transformation. And this is exactly why few are chosen. Not because the bar is impossibly high, but because most people won't even attempt to clear it. They won't do the work. They won't face the discomfort. They won't make the sacrifices required to become something more than they currently are. Let me give you a concrete example. Let's say there's a practice, any practice, meditation, prayer, self-examination, service to others, that if done consistently for 30 years, would guarantee your place in the eternal good column. Just 30 years of daily effort. That's it. Seems reasonable, right? 30 years in exchange for infinity. But here's what actually happens. On day 1, 10,000 people start. By day 30, 5,000 are left. By day 365, maybe 500 remain. By year 5, you're down to 50 people. By year 10, there are 5. And by year 30, if you're lucky, one person actually completed the journey. 1 out of 10,000. 0.01%. Why? Because people get bored. They get distracted. They convince themselves it doesn't matter. They have a bad day and quit. They find an easier teaching method that promises the same results with less effort. They rationalize why their particular situation is special and the rules don't apply to them. They simply forget why they started in the first place. This is the mathematics of eternality in action. It's not that the universe is being unfair. It's that humans are incredibly good at self-sabotage, especially when the consequences are distant and abstract. Now let's talk about another aspect of this mathematical nightmare, the false positive problem. Because it's not enough to just be trying, you have to be trying the right things. Imagine there are 1,000 doors, and only one leads to the good eternal outcome. The other 999 lead somewhere else. How do you know which door is the right one? You could spend your entire life devoted to the wrong practice, the wrong belief system, the wrong approach, and only find out when it's too late to change course. That's the really terrifying part. You could be in that 10% who are actually making an effort, who are actually trying, and still end up in the wrong place because you picked the wrong door. And before you say that all paths lead to the same place, ask yourself if that's actually true or just something we tell ourselves to feel better. Because if all paths really led to the same destination, why would every tradition emphasize how narrow the path is? Why would they all warn about how easy it is to get lost? The math suggests that not only are few chosen, but even among those who seek, most will seek in the wrong direction. It's like having a lottery where 90% of people don't even buy a ticket, 9% buy the wrong ticket, and only 1% have a chance at winning. Except the stakes are infinitely higher than any lottery. So what do you do with this information? Because I'm not sharing this to terrify you, even though it is terrifying. I'm sharing this because understanding the mathematics of eternality should fundamentally change how you live right now, today, in this moment. First, you need to wake up. Seriously, actually wake up to the reality that your choices have infinite consequences. That Netflix binge isn't just costing you 3 hours. It's potentially costing you eternity if those 3 hours could have been spent on something that actually matters. That grudge you're holding isn't just making you bitter now. It's potentially damaging your soul in ways that echo forever. Second, you need to get serious about finding the right door. This means questioning everything, including and especially your comfortable assumptions. It means being willing to be wrong about things you've believed your whole life. It means seeking truth even when it's uncomfortable, even when it challenges your identity, even when it costs you relationships or status or comfort. Third, you need to understand that time is the one resource you can never get back. You have maybe 70 or 80 years if you're lucky. Subtract the years you've already lived. Subtract the time you'll spend sleeping, eating, and working at jobs that don't matter. What you're left with is a shockingly small window to figure out the most important question in existence. Where will you spend eternity? Fourth, you need to embrace discomfort. Because here's the thing about that narrow path. It's uncomfortable by definition. If it were comfortable, everyone would take it. The fact that few are chosen tells you that the path requires something most people aren't willing to give. It requires sacrifice, discipline, courage, honesty, and persistent effort even when you don't see immediate results. And here's the paradox that will break your brain. The more you focus on getting the eternal reward, the less likely you are to actually get it. Because the very act of trying to secure your own salvation is often rooted in selfishness, in fear, in ego. The people who actually make it are usually the ones who stopped trying to make it and instead became focused on something larger than themselves. Truth, love, service, consciousness, whatever you want to call it. It's like happiness. The more you chase it, the more it eludes you. But when you stop chasing it and instead focus on living well, on being present, on contributing something meaningful, happiness shows up as a side effect. Eternal salvation or enlightenment or whatever we're calling the good outcome works the same way. It's not something you grab, it's something you become. Now let's talk about the people who already gave up. Because there's another group I haven't mentioned yet. The ones who hear these numbers and say, well, if the odds are that bad, why even try? It's a fair question. If 90% are going to fail anyway, why not just eat, drink, and be merry? Why not maximize pleasure in this life since the next one is probably doomed regardless? Here's why. Because you don't actually know you're in the 90%. You might be in the top 10%. And the only way to find out is to try with everything you have. Giving up guarantees you're in the 90%. Trying at least gives you a chance, however small. Plus, and this is important, living as if eternity matters makes this life better, too. The practices that lead to eternal liberation, whatever that means in your tradition, are also the practices that lead to a meaningful life now. Compassion, truth, courage, discipline, love, these things make you better today while also preparing you for tomorrow. So you're not sacrificing this life for the next one. You're living the kind of life that honors both. And if it turns out there is no eternity, if this is all there is, you still lived better than you would have by numbing out and wasting your potential. But let's be real, most people won't take this seriously. They'll hear these numbers and feel a momentary discomfort, maybe even a flash of motivation. Then they'll go back to their routines, their distractions, their comfortable delusions. Because actually confronting the mathematics of eternality is terrifying. It means admitting that you might be wrong about everything. It means accepting that you might need to radically change your life. It means embracing uncertainty while still committing to a path. That's why few are chosen. Not because the chooser is selective, but because few are willing to do what it takes to be choosable. Most people will read this or watch this and think, interesting idea, and then go back to sleep. They'll wait until they're on their deathbed to finally take eternity seriously, and by then it might be too late. So here's my question for you, and I really want you to think about this. If you knew, with absolute certainty, that your eternal destination was being determined by your choices right now, today, what would you change? What would you stop doing? What would you start doing? Who would you become? Because here's the uncomfortable truth. You don't know with certainty, but you can't rule it out either. And if there's even a 10% chance that eternity is real and your choices matter, doesn't that deserve your absolute best effort? Doesn't that deserve more attention than whatever distraction you were about to return to after watching this? The mathematics of eternality is chilling because it forces us to confront the possibility that most of us are getting it wrong, that our lives are pointing in the wrong direction, that we're spending our time on things that won't matter in even 100 years, let alone forever. But it's also liberating, because once you truly understand what's at stake, once you feel the weight of infinity pressing against the brevity of this life, you can finally start living with the intensity and purpose that the situation demands. You can stop wasting time on nonsense. You can stop lying to yourself. You can stop following the crowd off the cliff just because everyone else is doing it. Few are chosen, but you can be one of them. Not because you're special, not because you're lucky, but because you chose to take this seriously. Because you did the work. Because you stayed on the path when everyone else wandered off. Because you valued eternity more than comfort. The mathematics is brutal, but it's not deterministic. You still have agency. You still have a choice. The question is, what are you going to do with it? So let me ask you directly. After hearing all this, do you think you're in the top 10%? And more importantly, what are you going to do differently starting right now to make sure you are? Drop your thoughts in the comments below because I'm genuinely curious how people respond to this idea. Look, I know this has been heavy, but sometimes we need to be shaken out of our comfortable sleep. Sometimes we need to face the terrifying mathematics of eternality to finally start living, as our choices matter. Because they do. Every single one of them is either moving you closer to or further from the eternal outcome you want. Don't be one of the billions who sleepwalk through life and wake up too late. Don't be part of the tragic statistics. Be the exception. Be the one who actually does the work. Be the one who makes it when most people don't. And if this video made you think, even for a moment, about what really matters, then hit that like button and subscribe to this channel. Because we're going to keep exploring these uncomfortable truths that most people are too afraid to confront. And trust me, you're going to want to be part of that conversation. The clock is ticking. Eternity is waiting. What are you going to do about it?